WWE has advanced in countless ways since the 80s and early 90s, just like my sense of fashion, back when Monday night was nothing more than, well, Monday night. Much of this progress was made possible, or at least facilitated, by the rise and subsequent age of Monday Night Raw. You might call its creation one of the great watersheds in the entire history of wrestling. Conversely, though, there are certain areas where WWE simply did it better in the past, before Vince's TV schedule was saturated to bloody capacity. I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture, and these are 10 things WWE did better before Raw. Number 10. Split commentary. It might be a pure coincidence that Raw came along right around the time Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan were wrapping up their tenure at the announce table, but the fact is that we haven't seen a face-heel duo like them since. The cable years gave us many quality voices, and the idea of the heel announcer does live on to this day, albeit with this goober, but things have gotten decidedly greyer. When it came to two announcers constantly butting heads over black and white biases, the best work was done before cable. Heenan would drive Monsoon crazy with his comically shameless broadcast journalism, and the latter would instinctively mark out for the good guys, even while trumpeting impartiality. The chemistry was awesome. Number 9. Themed tag teams. The tag team division has seen its ups and downs, hi Simon, since the move to Mondays. From new Blackjacks to TLC specialists to whatever they're calling the Viking lads this week. The best years for traditional tag teams were the days of the Hart Foundation, Demolition, and the Rockers. Teams shared themes, attires, and entrance music, and most couldn't exist without a two-man trademark move. With more frequent programming comes the need to shake things up on a constant basis, and with the constant making and breaking of alliances quicker than an Adam Cleary wet snuggle, the law of team uniformity becomes totally optional. The tag division had so much more meat on its bones back in the day. Even lesser pairings like Power and Glory would have been a welcome sight at various points in subsequent years. Number 8. Monster heels. Let's be clear, the Raw years did give us some great monster heels in guys like Brock Lesnar, Kane, and the man William Regal used to call Humanja. However, they also produced a large number of rather toothless ones as well. There are a few rules to booking a good monster heel, many of which are much harder to observe in the modern model. First, you need a conquering babyface. At the height of Hulkamania, feeding Hogan a huge, terrifying man was automatic gold. Even bloody Zeus drew money. The closest we've seen since, with mixed results, is Cena, Taker, and Roman Reigns. Second, less is more. When you have an inhuman beast who only shows up to either ambush the hero or squash jobbers in gruesome fashion, it's easier to maintain that aura of fear leading up to a main event. The more you expose him to brand name matchups on TV, the more you wear him out, no matter how much of a bastard he looks. Number 7. Keeping it in the ring. Perhaps the most drastic change to accompany the Raw period was a steady increase in out-of-ring presentation. With more hours a week to fill, writers now needed to diversify the action, which led to the backstage area becoming part of the main stage. For every backstage or barroom or boiler room or parking lot brawl that entertained, how many bored us catatonic or, I don't know, made us watch Vince kiss his daughter? Meanwhile, in the pre-Raw days, we never had the faintest idea what the hallways looked like in any given venue. Promos and video packages might as well have been taped in a nearby YMCA. We'd have been none the wiser. Everything was in the ring, and it was fine. Nobody was worried about spicing things up with roving hardcore strike fests, and the few times you did see behind the curtain, it was a big deal. Number 6. Keeping spots fresh. One notable challenge that arises with increased exposure is the finite, albeit large, number of spots that can be used in ring. Watching a main event today, it's hard to find one spot, twist, or plot device that hasn't been seen in a match before. Honestly, I watched Raw last week and got bingo 2 matches in. There will always be a place for the classic spots that drive a good story forward, but more and more we're also seeing matches that do little besides remind us how mired we are in deja vu and how thirsty WWE fans are for something we've never seen. Back when the schedule was restricted to superstar squashes, house shows, and the big four pay-per-views, there just wasn't the same danger of wearing out spots. Whenever you watched a big reversal or Daredevil spot, it felt brand new or close, which gave live events that added whoa factor. Number 5. Protecting finishers. Quick, name one wrestler who kicked out of Jake Roberts' DDT. Time's up. Once upon a time, boys and girls, it was understood that each man on the roster wielded at least one move that was humanly unabsorbable. Whether you were getting hit with the shake, rattle and roll, the rude awakening, or the boss man slam, the match did not go on beyond that. Nowadays, most finishers are really just heavy signature moves. They don't guarantee a match is over anymore, they simply make for a more suspenseful near fall. In the past, an entire match was essentially a build-up to the moment one superstar formally called game over. Very few people kicked out at that point, except via Hulk Up, and if they did, that move had better belong to a lower card act or risk losing its luster. Number 4. Slow burn angles. Many WWE fans may be too young to remember the days when rubber matches weren't a thing. Bloody millennials. But once upon a time, a typical feud could brew for multiple pay-per-views leading up to a single blow-off match. It's not hard to see how that's changed. It's virtually impossible now to save one match for months on end. In the past, you could start building a WrestleMania angle after SummerSlam if you wanted. With only 2 pay-per-views until March, they could afford to withhold the big match without frustrating fans. Nowadays, with monthly events, WWE would be hard-pressed to keep an angle dry that long with much success. Yes movement notwithstanding. You can't tease a single match for 8 shows with no payoff. This isn't boxing after all. Number 3. Major event cards. Before Raw came along and killed squash programming, it required much less effort to get interested in pay-per-view matches than it does today. When a major card came around in those days, most matches already had the built-in appeal of seeing an original contest. Remember them? Now that matches between superstars are the standard on regular TV, more booking is needed to make them worth watching on a Sunday. Main events have always had stories behind them, but now every single match that isn't a battle royal needs some tangible build-up to be barely worth 10 minutes. Compare this with, say, WrestleMania 6, which was a 14-bout showcase of just about the entire roster, only half of which was backed by an angle. Even an expedited garbage match went over fine because nothing was squandered. More odds and ends matches, less booking, bad booking. Those were the days. Number 2. Championship booking. Another side effect of increased TV time and high drama booking was the notorious watering down of WWE's championship belts, starting with the Attitude Era.
What about the Attitude Era?
I'm never going to live that down, am I? The need to keep viewers tuning in during the Monday Night War was met, amongst other things, with title changes on an almost weekly basis. While it did become part of a winning strategy against a stagnating WCW, it was simply not best for business. Back when all the drama was reserved for the Big Four events, a year-long title reign was not the big deal it is today. You could win a belt at Mania, retain it once at SummerSlam, and only have to defend it again at the Royal Rumble. Either way, a title change back then was big news, which is the kind of magic WWE have gone some way to restoring in recent years, with lengthy top-line reigns. Albeit some of those forced by circumstance, or just the fact that Vince bloody loves big blokes who look like tomatoes. Number 1. Kayfabe. Hi, Jim Cornette. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, mate. If there's one overarching part of wrestling that has definitely not been the same since the 80s, it's the illusion of realism. Kayfabe isn't dead, just exposed, kind of like Jules at the WhatCulture Christmas party. Even if it's all out in the open, it's still the essence of pro wrestling, albeit with an occasional note of self-awareness. Superstars can now break character and make shoot comments when it's suitable, where once upon a time these were cardinal sins. By the time Raw rolled round, the illusion was making its way out the door for good. It's hard to say there was any real correlation between the two, but the overlap is evident. As hate this word, smartness soared, Raw would have to press on without certain classic tricks. Cartoonish gimmicks, well, those that took themselves seriously, started failing and disappearing. The sporting nature of matches was downplayed, and the sheer credulity that once enabled fans to swallow the craziest angles plummeted across the board. This tops the list simply because the central element of wrestling underwent a radical shift that lives on to this day, in concurrence with the birth of the most influential wrestling show ever. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And check out our wrestling podcast by searching for What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from WhatCulture, and I'll see you soon.